every month I am honored to be able to open up orientation. So we have orientation the first Tuesday of each month. And it's very cool that I get to come in and spend 30 minutes with the people that just were hired in the last 30 days or so and tell them about where we came from, where we are, and where we're going. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that right now. But I want to get ownership up here. But I was talking to Robert Holliday out in the hallway earlier, and of course, I told him, I said, look, Paul's not here until later on tonight. And so it's just going to be the three owners. But I said, Robert, you're a founder of this organization, and oftentimes you're in the back. You know, you allow Paul to kind of be out in front. You allow people like myself and KP to be out in front, but you're in the background. But I want you to make sure that so I'm going to team up and about him to tell the story, because I don't know about you, but I'm like a regular borrower-buyer. I buy on emotion first and then rationalize or justify the decision secondarily. That's human nature. I'm no different. I bought into Paul and Robert in late 2010 emotionally because of who they were as human beings. And so many of you may not know that these guys were friendly competitors, Paul and Robert, up in the high desert. Paul just left UC Davis, went to the high desert. He's like, why the hell did I do that? But he was selling radio airtime. And he met some mortgage professionals who were buying airtime, and he's like, if these knuckleheads can make a good living in the mortgage space, anybody can. I think I'll dip my toe in the water. And Robert was out there, man. He was selling to everybody. He had the MSAs, he had the realtors in the palm of his hand, and all of a sudden along comes this Paul Rosa character, and all of a sudden, they're two top dogs in the high desert marketplace, which, by the way, we still dominate with the help and support of first Frank Castanos and now Mike Thomas. So give a round of applause for those two gentlemen for carrying the torch. So great job. Stand up, Mike, just so I can see both of you. Frank, stand up. Who's here? Oh, and Al Sr. Where's Al? There he is. All right, there he is. Yes. So Paul and Robert had a vision. They were partners, limited partners in another company. Actually, I think you were president of that company. You had some fancy title at that other company. And then the story goes, Paul said, hey, let's go out there and start our own. Let's create a panacea for originators, and we'll call it Paramount Residential Mortgage Group. Never mind that almost sounds like Paul and Robert Mortgage Group. Or as I teased Paul sometime, I said, are you sure it didn't mean Paul Rosa Mortgage Group? And he's like, no, of course not. But we never know. Robert, you're a good man. But they went out to create this panacea, and man, I got to tell you, how many companies had that same vision all those years ago and are now just a memory? So many companies went out of business in 2008, 9, and 8 and 9 really. Some of us just didn't have the financial wherewithal to sustain ourselves. But this company has always ran itself with no debt, no liabilities, planned on a rainy day with their own money versus relying on other people's. And now they were able to leapfrog, literally without exaggeration, if you look at the numbers, roughly 7,000 companies they leapfrogged to become, as of last year, the 17th largest privately held lender in America. Now that's all I'm going to share because I don't want to steal the owner's thunder. But Robert, I want you to invite your partners up, but can you please come up here first? Because I do think it's high time that the shy guy, the guy that typically doesn't speak, gets his own little spotlight. So, ladies and gentlemen, your founder, Robert Holliday. Thanks, brother. Thanks.
Nope, no mic.
There you are.
Well, it says I have 59 minutes and 50 seconds to talk, so don't worry, I won't take that long. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chris, for the warm welcome, and thank you guys, everyone, for being here. So, Chris tells the story about Paul and Robert. It's kind of funny how stories can go and how you can originate loans differently. There's Paul walking down the mall in Victorville Mall. Everyone knows, Mike, you know what that mall is? I don't even know what it's called still, but you walk in the mall, and there's this fancy kiosk. and there's this guy doing loans. I'm like, who would set up a kiosk in a mall to do loans? And meanwhile, here I am knocking on doors, literally knocking on doors and realtors and sitting in open houses. And lo and behold, our old partner had coached T-ball with Paul. And Paul had a party, invited us over, and we went over there, and man, and Paul would say this, I'd say this right here, meticulous. As you guys know, Paul, very meticulous. House is clean. One of the guys was cleaning the chandeliers and everywhere, so everyone was nice and neat. And I was like, man, this guy is meticulous. So we were lucky, we were fortunate to recruit him over. He came in to the office, and mind you, the office was probably about the size of this room up here, and he set up his own desk with his own planner tray and everything. I'm like, we didn't have an office for him, but he created his own office. I was like, oh, wow, man. It's top dog, I got some competition here. And sure enough, we became really good friends. Our wives became great friends. And we both went our own different ways of how we got loans. I truly went out with the builder division, get my teeth kicked in every Friday at a meeting and when his loan's going to close. And Paul had his really polished marketing, flyers and really pretty stuff that he was doing. But we were both very successful. And we both had that vision of a company that, you want to do things the right way. And what do I mean by that? I mean, when you go into your the real owner's office and you see letters unopened from investors, and he's on vacation, so I'm kind of minding his desk. I open them up, and they're EPOs and EPDs. And I'm like, oh, shit, what are these? And next thing you know, I'm getting calls from investors that we're selling loans to that, we don't pay our bills. And it was just one of those things he just would kind of throw them underneath the rug. And I was like, man, that's just not the way you do things. And summer in 21 years ago, it was our good friend's wedding, and both me and Paul, it's just weird how things work out. Good friends, been friends for years, going to Vegas, having fun. And I told him, and he goes, I got something to tell you. I said, I got something to tell you. We both literally had the vision of leaving our prior company because we just didn't like the direction that company was going. Love doing loans. To me, I think it's one of the best blessings in the world of doing. There's no school that you go to college and say you want to do loans, but what business can you get to do that you get to actually do a loan for the borrower? It's the biggest purchase they ever make, and they send you a gift. They're sending you flowers. And meanwhile, back in the day, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever it was, I was making $300, $400, $500 a loan. It wasn't about the money. It was just about doing the loan and the joy we had. And we both, very competitive. We actually, funny story, the place we worked at, he'd make you fill out your commission sheet. So when you got paid, because we brokered out loans, you have to fill out your sheet and then you turn it in. Well, I think there was a period for about a year, neither one of us got paid, and we just in our minds had this like savings account. Well, the owner didn't think that was a really funny idea when all of a sudden one day we decided to turn in 88 loans for Paul, and I think I had 89, Paul. So, and we turned it all in. He's like, what are you looking to do? We're like, we're looking to get paid. You haven't paid us in 8 months. He goes, that's your fault. That's not my fault. So we had to haggle over getting paid. And that coupled with other things, it was like, you know what, we got to do things the right way. And so that summer, it was our friend's wedding, we decided, let's start PRMG. And we literally started in Paul's house, going through some construction. And we wanted to create, honestly, for everyone in this room. Because I was an originator, Paul was an originator, and there was nothing worse than groveling. We all had tough deals, whether they're today, yesterday, 30 years ago. We always had to call someone. You guys have the fortune of calling myself. But I didn't have anyone to call. We'd have to call people, and you'd have to beg for a favor. You have to beg an underwriter, to do a loan and do a favor. And we didn't want to do that anymore. We're tired of that. So we wanted to create this environment where, one, our investors respected us. So when we went to secondary marketing shows and we went warehouse lines, they made a difference. Most originators don't understand what a warehouse line is. But if you were me and Paul, when the times where that prior company, we were literally getting purchase advices in and telling the funder, okay, this one paid off, let's fund this loan. No one else knew, but the stress we went through was crazy. And we said, we'll never do that again. We're gonna run a company, keep everything all in, because this company started, just me and Paul, and we're not gonna take it out like a lot of owners do, scrape it all off the board, and just keep on building and building and building to where we're at today. So I'm very happy. Thank you guys. I think what was also really important to myself, and I know I speak for Paul, is having ownership that cared. You can say you care, but do you really care? Do people care about your success? I can tell you right now, I just watching today's presentation, hope everyone in this room knows, we care about your success. 21 years later, PRMG this week, we celebrate our 21-year anniversary. We care more today than we ever have because we know it's tough. We're not ignorant to it, but Chris likes to use the line, tough is what? You ask yourself that. How tough? It's tough? Okay, it's tough. It was tough when I was doing loans and they were 10, 11, 12%. I didn't even know what a rate sheet was. That's when back in the day, your manager would take his rate sheet, he'd mark it up, and you'd have to float a loan. How many of you guys remember those days where you'd actually tell your borrower, yeah, you're locked, and then you'd be sitting in a room like today where the market's going ape shit crazy, and you're literally crying because you're going to write a check now to your owner to close that loan because your reputation meant everything. And that's how we've operated this company. Our reputation means everything. It means everything for you because you represent all of us. You represent myself, Paul, Gary, every day. We're in all day, all night. Trust me. We send emails, texts 7 days a week, doesn't matter what time. Gary did that one because he wanted to have the last email that night. I know that. But Kevin came over the top and sent another one over after that. But we seriously care about your success. We want to see you guys be successful. We're happy that you make 7 figures. Nothing better. I've heard of companies that, once managers start making this much money, they cut their comp. We don't want to do that. Why don't you make more? The more successful you are, makes us successful. You represent us. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everyone being here. I know it's long haul, and you guys sat very patiently for almost I think it was like 6 hours today with a 20-minute break. I was impressed. So I know we have some questions and answers.
Well, I've got a question for you. So why, you've got 2 people in the room here that you and Robert chose.
Me and Paul.
Yeah, you are Robert, sorry.
It's okay, people think I'm Paul all the time. Not.
Yeah, flex.
No,
so you and Paul chose to bring on Kevin and Gary. Why is that, and can you please bring them up and introduce them?
Why is that? Because we wanted to build this company. Paul and I knew that there's a certain level where you need to hire smarter people than you. And we weren't afraid of that. And when we hired Kevin, young, energetic guy, said, you know what, build this branch in Plantation and watch. Watch what I'll do. And sure as hell, he built it. He killed it. He brought the operation team. He has a lot of passion and energy. If you guys get a bomb video for me or Paul, you should be concerned. Seriously concerned. Don't open it. Don't watch it. and Paul, he can't listen to me, but I'll tell him that later. So we wanted to have someone, we needed to grow. We wanted to grow. It's not because, we're old and frail and we don't want to do this anymore. It actually gave us another boost of energy to where now we have another partner in Kevin. And the same thing goes with Gary. He's definitely the smartest guy in the room. He's also the funniest guy in the room. He always says he doesn't like to speak. I think he's full, but he does stand-up comedy on the weekends. So, as he's sitting, and he truly is sitting in the corner, by the way. If you ever hang out at President's Cabinet, you will see Gary in the corner. I'm like, wait, he's out of the sun. But you know what? You needed to have levers to where you can pull and say, you know what? We have to have more knowledge. We can't get to the next level and go to being a top-tier lender without having other partners. And I know I speak for Paul. I'm blessed, honored to have both Kevin and Gary as our partners. Couldn't do it without them, and I know the future is bright.
How about a round of applause for Kevin? And call them up.
That would be Kevin and Mr. Gary. Come on up.
And so I'll act, you guys need to be up on stage, and I'm going to act as I don't have a microphone for you, but I'll ask your question.
Sounds like you do.
I'm sure you guys can hear. So this is an opportunity with your ownership, and Paul's not here, so this is the best time, obviously, to get what you want.
Oh, that's bullshit. Come on. Chris is inside Paul's office every single day, groveling. Always comes out.
It's true. So, any questions of your ownership team? You've got a phenomenal ownership team, and I kid you not, these guys do. It's hard to keep up. They are literally going 24/7, and they all outpace each other. And then if I ever, am the last person to respond for too long, I get a text from Paul going, are you taking the day off? It's like midnight. I'm like, no, but I happen to be sleeping.
And then you'll get up at 3.
And I'll get up at 3 to go to the...
And then I'll apply, and I go, piss break?
Yeah, it's true.
Needless to say, we have fun doing what we do.
So who has a question for ownership about anything you guys want or need? This is time, obviously, for Corey to be able to get whatever you want.
Wants are a big answer. Wants?
What do you want, Corey?
Win the lottery?
Just kind of an overall general question for maybe more for Gary. Have you ever seen, the type of shift that we've seen coming from March of this year, how great everything was, China was doing great, thriving, to, the type of slowdown that we've all been going through now? Have you ever seen or experienced anything like that?
Oh, sorry.
It is
I didn't know there was more to okay, let me think about that for a second. So first, let me just be clear. Forget about smartest person. I'm not even the smartest person on the stage, so just to be clear. Can
I sit here?
Now, I might be now. Now I am. See, I feel humility is important. I just pay attention to stupid crap that no one else cares about, so it makes me look smart.
We care about it. You're just really good at it.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a good question. The answer is no, we've never seen it, but remember, we also haven't seen the last 2 years either. And so the problem is, and that's where it's interesting. We were, obviously these, one of the cool things about these things is obviously there's 8 million little breakout or, random conversations with people that, quite frankly, live and breathe this stuff all day, like you guys do. And, the Fed made some odd choices. In their defense, it was during COVID, and it was really difficult to predict what the economic recovery would be. And again, I think the money supply was stupid. The combination of the money supply along with people seeing their houses go up in value and their 401ks go up in value, people underestimate the wealth effect. Not necessarily how much cash they truly have, but just mentally how they behave. And when you are sitting on a house that you now think anyone will buy any time of the day, even if you're not going to sell it, you just magically think you have more money, and you kind of bet on that. And you couple that with your credit card bills being lower, all your short-term debt being cheaper, your house going up in value, your wage going up, right? And so people spent at a level that was unsustainable, is the bottom line. And the Fed kind of chickened out for too long, partially because of COVID, but just buckets and buckets of money. They, between buying too much balance sheet and really kind of inverting the curve more than they should have, it's just basically fooled everybody. So unpacking, anytime you have systemic involvement where you shouldn't, or more than you should, unpacking it is just ugly. Right? Anytime you have anything, it's just a loaded spring. Anytime you have a spring that is overloaded, this is what happens. And so, no, sadly, we've never seen the last 2 years, although in a way, again, everyone enjoyed it. But like I said, the biggest problem is it's made everyone's perception of what's normal completely off kilter right now.
So I'll give you that. Hello?
Yep.
I'll give you the glass half full answer. That was a half empty. No.
No, it wasn't. It was just answering the question. No, we have not seen something like this because we've never seen something
That preceded
wound
it.
up so tight. And it is just, like I said, it has just given a misinformation to so many. And again, especially for a company like us, and KP talks about it all the time. If you look at, again, yes, the pie may be shrinking for certain loans and certain people will get easier than us, and that's just the reality is. But the majority of loans are done by people like us. But the majority of buyers that we cater to have seen a world that isn't very normal for the last few years, and so they really require a level of education that, or I guess we'll say a mind alteration, so to speak, of what's normal. And it's going to take effort to do it, and there's going to be still more misinformation out there, unfortunately. So it is making it harder, but again, it's not undoable, and the good news is once we do it, it will help normalize this. But it is going to require a lot of education for people to realize that a 5.5% or 6% mortgage is still the way to wealth appreciation for both themselves and for future generations. And the longer we delay the educational process, the worse it is for everybody.
But I would say that there's more houses on the market now. I'm seeing in markets where I've talked to branch managers, they're busier now than they have been because they focus on purchase business, which is what PRMG predominantly does. Yeah, refis go away when rates go from 3 to 6%, but when you now have, instead of 20 people trying to buy a house, maybe you're lucky to have 1 or 2, there's more buyers. I mean, there's more homes or more buyers to buy.
And I'll kind of oblige a little bit. Don't believe the hype on what you see, out there. We're in a purchase money market, and although we just had one of the worst, months as a company in probably 3 years, retail was up to, I believe, 58% of our business. Okay, retail was number one, and we have twice as many AEs as we have in, even 12 months ago on the wholesale and correspondent side. Non-del core is usually in a normal market about 55% purchase. Wholesale is about 65% purchase. And retail is about 89, sometimes as high as 92%. If you saw Ariel Melendez's email that he sent out to the region, 92% purchase. We're in a purchase money market. The next time the Fed cuts rates, they're not going to cut to zero. All these loans we just did the last 2 years, unless they sell the home or cash out, they're not leaving the cheapest money ever. There's not going to be an epic refi boom for at least a few years. I mean, something catastrophic would have to happen. Maybe another pandemic. But there's a war going on in Europe for the first time in God knows how long, and that's not getting zero Fed funds rate. There's not going to be a refi boom. It's a purchase cycle. And it may be like this for as many as 7 years before we see something to where the purchases we do today become the refinances of tomorrow. We are in a purchase money cycle. PRMG develops business. We find and hunt purchase money business. And wholesale lenders cannot do that. They don't have the product mix. And just so you know, the secondary market charges a tax on wholesale loans because they pay off sooner because they're more refi. Purchase money is where it's at, and it's where it's going to be for a while. And I would advise all of you, by the way, and again, they all have their models. They all, like, if you don't want to grow and you just want to do this much, and you're not trying to grow your business, maybe you should then just say, I'm just going to do this much. I don't really want to grow more than a couple loans a month, and I'll just take the added little, price benefit. But there's no support there. There's no scalability. Your managers here, I'm assuming you all want to at least double where you're at. I would advise you, by the way, to make sure, if you haven't already, to make sure that any business development that you do on behalf of yourself or your originators,